Hi, and welcome to another episode of Prevailing Through Pain. I'm Karen Cherry Brown, and today our lovely guest is Francesca Alford. Francesca is the author of Loving an Older Woman. Now, when I tell you if you want a juicy book to read, this is the book that you want to read. Francesca, thank you for being a part of our podcast today.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
So, I'm just going to jump right in with
Okay.
let our viewers know a little bit about who you are, your humble beginnings.
Okay. So basically, I was born in California. Um, my mother and my father were married. My father is a truck driver, long distance, so he was very seldom at home.
Mm-hmm.
I think around the time when the LA riots came out, she felt like she needed to come back home to Texas where her parents were. So she moved 6 kids. We came back to Dallas.
About how old were you when
I
the
was
LA riot?
probably about 5 at the
Oh, so
time.
you're probably too young to remember any of that LA riot.
No, but I've talked to her over the years, so I kind of got an idea of what happened.
Yeah.
The riots kind of woke her up to the fact that she might need to be closer to home.
Mm-hmm.
So she came back home with 6 kids,
With 6 kids.
6 of them.
Okay, so tell us a little bit about your childhood
My
that you can remember.
childhood, basically, when she got here, we lived with my grandparents. Everyone has a granddaddy and a big mama. So,
That Big Mama.
big mama, she ruled the house. I love my grandmother. Probably like 3 to 4 months coming back home, my mother, my oldest brother, well, my youngest brother, he died of crib death. He was probably like around 6 months old. That was pretty much my first touch of pain at such a close environment. My mom, I remember when my mother found out, she just fell to the floor. My grandmother had to like comfort her, pick us up. As children, we really didn't know
Mm-hmm.
what was happening. We just knew one day Kelvin was with us. We called him Baby KK. And then the next day he
He was.
wasn't. So it took my mom a while to it took her about a week because she had other kids she had to see about.
Mm-hmm.
Um, my grandparents was just really supportive of her. We had great times. It was a type of family unit like Big Mama and Granddaddy on a Saturday night. My grandfather would make tea cakes and we would watch the wrestling. Bristol and Derrick at the time was this popular wrestler.
Mm-hmm.
So there would be cousins that would come over. It would be about 11 or 12 of us. We would just have pallets all on the floor watching. And this was like constant every weekend.
Mm-hmm.
I think they wanted to be close to their grandkids. Plus, it gave my mom time to kind of have a life, you know, outside raising 5 kids. Um,
I remember those family, cousins, everybody coming over, grandmas, like you said, sleeping on top of each other. And
yes,
that was fun to us,
that was
stand up all
fun. We
night
didn't know any
giggling.
better.
Get your foot off me. Yeah.
Yes, all of that happened. Um, my grandfather, we actually, when we came back to Dallas, we stayed in West Dallas. So West Dallas was kind of like a community of its own. With us, we were like just routine. We took care of our grandmother's house. We had the chores. My grandmother suffered a stroke probably maybe about 2 years into us arriving, but she was still the main force in that thing. I mean, we did whatever Big Mama said. Um, Being over there was a comfort zone. One of the things I remember as a child, though, was like my first dose of pain and guilt. I had just started probably grade school.
Mm-hmm.
At that time, you were bused outside of your neighborhood.
Right.
So I would go into a all-white classroom. Didn't know anybody, didn't look like anybody in my classroom. Then I would just be bused or kind of dropped off close to my grandparents' home.
Mm-hmm.
I was led to believe that you are always supposed to respect elders.
Right.
So one day I was walking home from school. One of my grandfather's neighbor, a male,
Mm-hmm.
basically told me to come over to his home. He was like four houses away from my grandparents. I always had to bypass his house, knew who he was.
Mm.
So I felt like he's my elder. There must be something I need to do. Basically, he took me into his home, and I was physically molested.
And you were 6?
I was 6 when that happened. I was. And we had just pretty much been there for probably, yeah, because I was about 5 when we got here. So that was like in the first grade.
Mm-hmm.
I felt such horrible guilt that I did not tell my mom or my father, or my grandparents, or anyone. I held that in me for about 30 years
As a kid.
as a
And
kid.
it just,
I just owned up to I made a mistake. I do remember coming home. I was so sick for 2 days. I wouldn't leave my room. My mom thought something was actually physically wrong with me. At that time, even at the conscious age of 6, I knew that I had to do something. I did not want her to pressure me into telling her that horrible secret. So I just started resuming. I started going back to school. I started acting normal. I think as children, when we are suppressed in pain, you have the ability to just kind of put that away uh, and go back to living. At that time, it was no open up, express your feelings.
yeah.
We had no counseling.
And let me say, because you said you suppressed it till like in your 30s.
I suppressed it until my mom died.
Yeah.
So it had been a while.
That's interesting because I remember one time Oprah was saying something and then she said, about suppressing something and I didn't I didn't even think about what she was saying. And I remember I moved in with my grandmother to take care of my grandmother when I was in my 30s. She had had a stroke and moved in to help take care of her. And I remember going into, we didn't have the attached garage. So it was a garage that was a little ways from the house. We didn't have running water when I was a kid. We had water barrels. And I went in, my grandmother wanted me to go in the garage to find something. I hadn't been in that garage in years. And so when I went in that garage, I could see me as a kid standing there crying with a grown man telling me, shh, shh.
Yeah.
And I remember those barrels weren't there anymore, but my face and my neck went right over to those barrels and I could see me as a little girl. And so I was like, did something happen? And I was talking to my sister about it. And I understood what Oprah was saying because I had literally suppressed that all those years.
Right.
And I don't know if I hadn't gone in that garage,
If that hadn't
yeah,
resurfaced.
yeah, but I'm sorry, that just,
Well, we as children, I feel like you can bounce back because you do suppress a lot of things. And as I grew up and started talking to other women and friends, I realized some of them actually went through much more horrible things than I did. Luckily, it wasn't like, I think I had a protective shield because when I went back to school, um, I just ignored that house. And that man was be out there a lot of times. And I just ran home. So I knew something had happened. But I took on accountability that it was something that I did. And it took me being an adult realizing that that was not my fault.
yeah.
I was
Right.
taught to respect your elders. And basically you put the blame where it goes.
Yeah, you
You
don't
know,
don't
so
take that because people will say that little fast girl or that little, but
right,
somebody taught that little girl to be fast.
right,
And that's what people miss. Some grown behind man taught that little girl how to be
right.
fast. Okay, we'll stop here. So let's segue into
So
your teen.
anyway,
I'm
luckily
sorry.
enough, my mom, I guess while we were spending time with Big Mama and
Hmm.
Granddaddy, she fell in love
Okay.
with my stepfather. And he was a remarkable man because he was presented a woman with 5 kids. You know, he had no children. He pretty much adopted us.
Hmm.
They got married. Uh, they purchased a new home in West Dallas. So we went out of that neighborhood, and I felt a little bit more secure that I didn't have to deal with that person, and I didn't have to see him
Yeah.
anymore. When I did come over to my grandparents' house, he was never there. I felt like that he knew that maybe he thought that I had told my grandparents or my mom or whatever, but I never saw that man again.
Hmm.
Uh,
That's good.
yeah, it is. But growing up was great. I had a great childhood. Um, from the 3rd grade to the 8th grade, I was placed in advancement classes. So didn't realize that until much later because, when you come into school, they test you.
Hmm.
Then you start wondering how is it that all the people in your class is in the same class the next year, the next year, the next year. I was able to develop skills. I had my first recital at 10, learned to play the piano very quickly, had a piano recital. My mom, when I looked into the audience, you could see just the proud glee, just that I had accomplished something at such a young age. My family was pretty much probably like most black families. They did not show much affection
Hmm.
or attention
Hmm.
during that time. There was no they weren't your friends. There was your parents,
Right.
and I respect that.
Hmm.
Um, my stepfather was a provider. My mom was a housewife.
Yeah.
So to me, we really had the leave it to beaver type of attitude, but it was in a black neighborhood. She came in, I really didn't have any chores there as far as I had to do this, that, this or that. Basically, she just wanted you to have good grades and excel.
Right.
So now, around, I guess, 13, I developed a habit of reading. I love Harlequin romances. I would just wait every month to get my package of my 6 books and read. It wasn't so much about the characters, but it was more about the locations. Where, the Caribbean, England, London, all of that. I was just always intrigued in reading. I've probably read about 5,000 books up to date.
Oh
So
wow.
which is going to tell you why I chose to write. But anyway, around 16, my sister got married. She and her husband lived with his brother in an apartment. I would go and visit, no big deal. I really talk to him. I was more of like a wallflower. I really didn't talk to anyone. I was very shy as a child. You would only know I existed if I gave a piano recital or something. I was pretty much a loner. I'm the middle kid, so as a middle child, you're either too old for some things or too young for other things. Uh, this person, who became my husband, found an attraction in me. I thought I was in love. And at the time, I probably was, but you don't know puppy love from genuine love. Hold that thought. Okay. We're going to take a sponsor break. We'll be right back.
Do you have a powerful story of perseverance? Have you triumphed over pain and want to share your story with the world? We're looking for inspiring guests to join us on the Prevailing Through Pain podcast. Head over to KarenSherry.me/guest. Fill out the form and let us know your story. Your voice could be the one to inspire others. Your experience can be the one to lift up someone else. Go to KarenSherry.me/guest.
And we're back. So you fell in puppy love
I fell in
with
puppy
your
love, yes.
brother. No, he wouldn't be your he'd be your sister's brother-in-law.
He would two sisters married two brothers,
Okay.
basically, at the
Uh-huh.
end of,
Uh-huh.
yes. I think because the night that I lost my virginity, and I'm probably the only one that feels this way, the night I lost my virginity, basically my sister knew. I basically got caught. She called my mom. I went home, and you're talking about the walk of shame. Um, they were there waiting. Everybody in the house was waiting. My mom, you just could tell that she was like disappointed.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Also, she was probably thinking, what are we going to do now? So between her and my husband, they decided I needed to get married. Got married. Okay, I'm gonna make this. It's a long story, but I'm gonna shorten it up. Got married at 16. They signed. My mom signed the
What
paperwork.
they used to call back then the shotgun wedding.
I call it shotgun wedding because I really didn't. I felt like I didn't have a say in
Right,
it, and
right.
not only that, I got caught with my pants down.
Literally.
So, so I got married. He was a great provider. He was older. He was college educated. Um, he came in. He stepped in. So I went from one secure household into another secure
Mm-hmm.
household. Didn't really know much about life. Um, at this time, I felt like, this is the perfect ideal. I have a husband, he works, he lets me, go to school. I don't have to do anything really. He pays the bills, you know. Then I found out I was pregnant. I was still in school. They shipped me to Metropolitan, and everyone in Dallas know that was a school at the time for all female that were
Mm-hmm.
pregnant. Didn't feel bad, but the unique thing, I'm the only one that's in their marriage, you know. So I made a decision when I went back to school. I had had my baby. Went back to school. I was like in the 11th grade. I decided, why am I here? Because basically, I'm a married woman. I have my own car. I have my own apartment. They're not going to teach me anything, and I know that I'm not going to listen to a teacher that's trying to put me in place
Mm-hmm.
because legally I'm an adult, you know. So I decided without any preparation, I'm just going to test out.
Okay.
I test out the first time, we got that certificate, and basically I knew that I had to go back to school. I had to get something else to kind of validate why I did what I did. Because one thing, I hate labels. You would never put a label on me. You're not going to say, well, she was a baby mama. You're not going to say, well, she got married at 16. Those things did happen, but it wasn't because of a negative action.
Mm-hmm.
So I got my certificate. The first job, well, I went to a medical assistant class, got that certificate, became a nursing aide, realized I didn't want to do that. So I went to secretarial school, got that certificate, ended up being a office manager for a printing company. So that validated some experience and some education.
Mm-hmm.
Loose Sturk had opened up in 1993, I believe. I got interviewed, got hired as a court clerk. Was a court clerk for about 2 years, and then I went on to become that court supervisor. So I was like the first African American magistrate court supervisor. The person I trained stayed in that position for probably over 20 years. But when I went to work at New Sterk, it was just one little small building on the hill. Frank Crowley wasn't there. Nothing was there. It was just that one little building. I was there for about 9 years, and then I realized, um, as comfortable that is, I did not like the good old boy system
Mm-hmm.
at that time.
Mm-hmm.
I did not like a lot of things that happened behind closed doors. Um, I was a party girl back then, so I would party, do my things.
So you went from marriage to party girl?
Pretty much after the divorce. I divorced.
Okay.
I divorced because I was still in search of who Fran really was.
Okay.
I wasn't like really a wife person because I like my independence. But in the same token, I knew that I had kids that I had to support. I knew I had to have a, a good, decent job. So, and that's, I've always told people, you know, everyone is not meant for college, but get some type of education, you know. Um, yeah, in my 20s, in the 80s, they were pretty hectic because I
How
had
old were
my
you when you
kid.
got a divorce?
I was 22.
22.
Mm-hmm.
So you got married at 16,
Mm-hmm.
divorced at 22.
Mm-hmm.
You had, because you said children,
I have two,
you had
yes.
2 children by
Right,
then.
yes.
So how was that going from a secure family home, then to a secure husband? Now you're single,
Oh my God.
dating with 2 children.
Well, the thing with me is, I'm not going to say dating perhaps because I kept the men out of my life that was not going to play a significant part of my life
Okay.
away from my children. I
Okay.
was pretty protective of my kids. So you've had 3 or 4 different versions of friend going around you. On Sundays, you wouldn't call me because I would be with my kids. Uh, but like ladies' night, Saturday night, Friday night, I would be in those clubs after the kids fell asleep. My mom would take care of the kids at times. Um, I was just trying to find myself. And I learned lessons in that too. You can't be a party girl and try to be in a commitment. So I had to learn the hard way about that. I've self sabotaged some relationships, and I try to learn from that to make me a better person. There's rules to my dating, and I've always stuck to them. I didn't date men that had children. I felt like instead of focusing on me, you need to focus on your kids. You didn't meet my kids unless I was in a long-term relationship with you, you know, and that was very seldom. Um, there's certain type of men that I just stayed away from. The braggart, you don't need to brag to me. I'm not impressed with what you have. I don't care what you have. My grandmother told me a long time ago, and it stuck with me, that whoever you fall in love with, make sure they love you more than you love them.
Oh my God, that's what my mother used to say.
And I never got it until like in my 30s and 40s, really. But, and her second piece of advice, always have your money.
Your own money.
So, and I've kept that. I don't believe that if the first guy that draws your interest is not necessarily the guy for you, you have to prove yourself to me. And it's not like I'm not going to give you $20 of gas, and I'm not going to ask you to pay my light bill. So I'm very independent about that. Um, and it comes in much later in life when I am like in my 50s, and I just got out of a long-term relationship, and I started back trying to date, and I was like, what happened? Because where are these type of men coming from? I've had like guys, now I'm like in my 50s, and guys are saying, well, I live with my mom. You live with your mother? You know, and you're trying to, instead of talking to me, why don't you try to get out of your mom's house?
Yeah.
These are grown, older men, you know, or I'm trying to find myself. You haven't found yourself in 55 years? You know, I'm just real black and white. You know, if you're saying things like, well, I got baby, if you tell me anything about a baby mama, I don't want to see, I don't care what you look like.
Especially in your 50s.
Yeah, you shouldn't be having like little babies in your 50s, you know. The thing with me is because I come from a family, the 5 kids, and 3 sets of us had different last names. So that meant my mom had married several times, okay? One of the main things with me, when I had my children, that was it. I've always wanted my kids to have the same father and the same last name. If somebody was like, well, how am I, baby? No, you're not the one for me. I'm not having anything. It's just that I stand on my principles. Um, what I believe in equally yoked relationships. Whatever I bring to the table, you need to be bringing that or more to the table. And it's not a vain thing. It's just realistic about what I want in life. And this is my life and I have to live, which brings me to my husband. So I've been in like marriage and relationships like for 25 years. I've been single for 20 years. I could see both sides of the coin. My husband, Johnny, is such total bipolar opposite of me. He is the positive force in my life. Basically, when I met him, I was like, I am not gonna get married again. And he was saying the same thing because he's had previous marriages. Um, when he came to me, I'm like, we can just be friends. And he was like, no, I want more. And we have been dating, we have been seeing each other. I like the positive vibe he had. He would basically he listened and he understood. I remember when we were dating and I had told him, you get older, your back is hurting and all of that. And I was just telling him one day, my back is hurting. Um, he was like, oh, okay. Maybe a month later, I'm working in my office and I look out the window. Here come two guys with a mattress. I was like, what is this about? They knock on my door and say, we have a delivery for you. I'm like, a mattress? He's like, yes, it was ordered by Johnny.
Oh, wow.
I'm like looking at this mattress. I've never received a mattress from
Well,
a
as a
man.
gift. Yeah.
I've received other
Yeah.
gifts, but
I
never a
love it.
mattress. I put it in. I'm like, okay, you can just put it over there in the living room. And he was like, no, he wants me to set it up. I'm like, no, you can put it there in the living room because I thought it was strange. The two men was coming up on my front porch with a mattress anyway. And so I called him and I was like, okay, did you order a mattress for me? He was like, well, babe, you was talking about your back last month. And I'm like, he was like, did they set it up? I'm like, no, you're going to set it up. Because I don't have strange men in my house. I don't care if they're delivering a mattress. You should have told me. But he does things like that to surprise me. He's always had my back. He's a great provider. Has like characteristic follows like my stepfather. He's a man's man, hands on. I love him for that, basically, and he's not judgmental. And he actually sees me. He sees the beauty or whatever he calls beauty, but he actually gets to know me. I've had relationships where you only put your best foot forward. You only let
Till
that
you get
person
in
see
there.
the best side of your personality. He's not like that. He actually knows me inside and out.
So let me ask you this.
Okay.
Thus, loving the older woman, does that
Right.
have anything to do with Mr.
Some of it,
Johnny?
yes, some of it.
So are you a cougar?
Um, I would say cougar, not at this age. Maybe if I was 30 or 40. Johnny is younger than I
You a
am.
cougar then?
I'm not a
You a cougar. I'm 2 years older than my husband. I'm a cougar.
You're a
By the
cougar?
definition of a cougar, we are
Okay.
cougars.
Well, yeah, I would say I was cougar if I was just playing with him and then throwing them out. But with him, yes, he's younger. He's on one end of the spectrum. I'm on the other end. We're in the same generation. He is basically, he thinks he's older. That's the thing. And he does act older. Um, but I always tease him when we're talking about the good old days. And I'm like, well, honey, when you were that age, when I was this age, you were outside playing in the dirt. Um, he laughs, but he seems to think that he's older because he'll be in there grooming and he's like, let me get ready because I want anyone to think I'm your uncle. And I'm like, no one's going to think that, baby. No one's going to think that.
Well, I love seeing you, Mr. Johnny, with all your travels and all that is on Facebook. But before we wrap up, I want you to look into the camera and tell some young girl that just feels like I don't know what to do, the situation where something, may have happened to them, or they're in a marriage that they feel like I don't know what to do, just kind of tell them, give them a little
Okay.
bit of encouragement.
I have probably like 3 different topics. The first one, if you are younger and you feel like that someone is inappropriately touching you or doing other things, tell someone. Don't carry that burden for the next 30 or 40 years and then it release into something else. Always, if you're not able to speak to a parent, talk to your grandparents, talk to a counselor. Um, Women that are in their 30s and 40s, be cautious about who you bring around. Men tend to put on a facade and then they come back and you wonder, how did I get involved in this? Just always kind of investigate the people that you bring into your life, and especially if you have children. For older women, I would just say, don't give up. I thought that I was going to just stop at my age and say, I'm finished, it's over with. And God had other plans. Our God had a sense of humor, because as soon as I said that, my true soulmate came in. And I now sleep with both eyes closed, not just one eye open, trying to figure out what he's doing. But when you have someone in your life that's going to be a protector, a provider, work twice as hard as trying to maintain that, and we do it by communication. We keep our communication pretty open and honest. So hopefully that will help someone out there if you're in any kind of like stagnant position, or you are in a physical abusive relationship.
Thank you. So what's next?
Next is, like I said, I'm a certification nut. And luckily enough, I love knowledge. So one of the things I'm planning on doing is getting my AI certification. Um, I finished my second book, so it just needs to be edited. Because of some illness that I had to put that on hold. Mm-hmm. And much more traveling. I'm planning trips this year, so.
Sure. Well, tell our guests where they can find you in case they want to check out your book.
Okay, bro. My book is at Barnes & Noble, and the Amazon. It's called Loving an Older Woman. It has Alford as the writer. I'm using my initials. So please feel free to get that book. It is romance. It's dealing with relationships. It's dealing with how to get out of relationships if you're like in a bad relationship. And it has some humor to it. So.
Well, thank you so much for sharing your story and being a part of our show today.
Thank you for having me, and it was great. I enjoyed it.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Karen Cherry Brown, and if you like this episode, please like, share, and subscribe. Thank you.